silencios que cautivan la inquietud de ser, observando a tu ánima, la única verdad. Fiera flama federando la utopía, improbable, obstinada realidad. Amor pasado, amor presente, amor sin futuro. Bienvenida, madame, explorar lo más profundo de ser. Incondicionalmente tuyo soy, lo magnífico y virtuoso tuyo soy, lo abierto, lo mundano tuyo soy, en cielo de regir y prosperar de amor. De unos días en tus brazos, y volando curva a curva por los suelos, desplazando codo a coda el terreno, indicando la naturaleza de nosotros. Nebulosas formas del momento Dear stranger, fellow man of flesh and bone, pleased to meet you. Thanks for sharing this chance encounter, brief collision of existence with me. serenading honest men, sharing tales of love and sweat, of snow and hunger, war and conflict. Short attempt at understanding equals in this troubled world. A sacred man, a family man, a working man, a wise man. Another speck of the cosmos, looking to a brighter day. Dear stranger, world of tears and smiles and thoughts, far removed from home and loved ones. We share the pathway, share the journey through this city tonight. Door is closing, this collision to conclude. I wish you love, I wish you well, but most of all, I hope you have a good phone call today. besos y sonrisas nos llenamos y nos abrimos paso día a día. Sentirte cerca, amada mía, que tu pulso y tu calor me alimenten ese día, mientras besos y sonrisas nos llenamos y nos abrimos paso día a día. Y esperan, mi amor, estas pestañas, ya los astros se asoman por nuestra ventana, iluminan ya tu rostro y tus cabellos. En otro episodio de esta vida cotidiana, en otro episodio de esta vida cotidiana, en otro episodio de esta vida cotidiana.
Thaddeus Tulkes.
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you too.
It's amazing, just at least in my experience, the journey of getting to know you and watching each other develop as musicians. And you came to Chicago with a passion and a desire to really amplify your passion and your skills. And it's really incredible to see you doing it, man. So kudos.
Thank you, man. It's a beautiful place to be in, and I'm just really happy to be a part of this community, and honestly, to be feeding a lot from all the amazing people and resources, and hopefully I'm bringing also a little bit into the community so
Nice.
I can help it grow.
How'd you get here? What brought you here?
On a plane. Most of the time.
Right.
On a plane. I came here because I like jazz and I like music, and I wanted to study music and especially jazz, and I wanted to do it in a city in which jazz had been a part of its history, and the city had been a part of jazz's history. So when I first moved to the States, I lived in New Orleans for a little while, and then after that, I contemplated a few different cities, and one of them was Chicago. And I got a better scholarship to come here, and money
I'm hip.
makes a lot of decisions for us.
Yeah.
So that's one of those.
Isn't
things.
that fascinating? Doing something that's kind of based in just community effort and community collective really is now kind of driven by finances in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's rare to have something that's not driven by finances.
But it worked out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
So before we get to Northwestern, which is how I met you, where were you before that? You said you moved to the States
I was in Loyola, New Orleans
for undergrad.
for 4 years for my undergrad, yeah.
Now, where did you live before Loyola, New Orleans?
I lived in Mexico City.
Wow. So what's the music scene in Mexico City?
Yeah, it's a monster.
Mm.
It's like 22 million people. There's a lot of gigs, a lot of clubs for all sorts of music, amazing musicians because there's a huge pool, and it's a beautiful place. Jazz has a huge part in the scene. There's a lot of great jazz musicians. They interpret it and play it in a different way. You know, they come from a different place musically, culturally, and socially. But it's a beautiful place. That's kind of where I first got into music. So it's a huge part of me.
What would you say are kind of the major differences in interacting in like the United States music scene versus Mexico City?
That's interesting. I've never thought about that. I would say that every city is different in terms. Like I couldn't name a way of interacting in music in the U.S. I can tell you that when I was in New Orleans, it was a very different thing. It's very community driven, and a lot of the clubs are in the same place in New Orleans, and so a lot of that kind of happens in the same place, and there's a whole of different communities, different styles of music, and people coming from different places, all joining in the same place. I feel Chicago is a very segregated place, not only racially and economically, but musically as well. That happens. So there's a little less mixing of that, I feel like, in Chicago, you know. And Mexico City, in my experience, there's a few different worlds going on. There's a huge jazz scene, there's a huge salsa scene, there's a huge fusion and punk scene and rock scene, and there's some interactions over there. When I say there's a huge pop scene, I mean like there's a lot of like acts. Like I've got a lot of friends who play in stadiums for 50,000 people and stuff like that, you know.
Wow.
And that's like I think that's a part of the jazz scene over there. You know, a lot of people play jazz and then go do those things, and the bars and the communities are different. You know, there's definitely not as many jam sessions. Like I feel like jam sessions are a cultural thing here. In Mexico, it's more like gigs at little bars and a couple speakeasies and stuff like that. You know.
Wow.
And yeah.
What kind of brought you to jazz as like what you decided you wanted to spend most of your time doing?
I would say, I mean, there's two things. I have two answers. There's there's a passion answer to it, you know, which to me is basically, I was studying the drum set and I started studying different types of music. And one day somebody was like, hey, you like the drums, you should come to this master class. This great drummer's going to be teaching it, and it should be really fun. The guy's name was Dave Wackel, and up until then, all I was listening to was Carter Buford and Travis Barker, which are
Fire. Yeah.
And so Dave Wackel was like on a different wavelength, you know. And listening to him inspired me to check out his records, and then a couple years later, he came playing as part of a concert series of jazz in Mexico City, and I was like, oh, that guy I remember. So I went to see him, and then I went to check out other people in the series. And the series was like Bramford's Quartet, Dave Holland Quintet, Joe Lovano, Matt Wilson's Quartet. So it was like, just because I went to see Dave Wackel, I was suddenly exposed to all these people, and I was like, oh, there's not only one great drummer, there's a million people that play amazing, and they're all doing this thing called jazz. I should start digging into it, you know?
Wow.
And so that's, I think, the passion answer to it, you know?
Nice. I mean, a little point on that. It's funny that you say Dave Wackel. I too was inspired by Dave Wackel and used to watch his like drum tutorial videos, you know.
He's got some great DVDs, man.
Great DVDs. I went to Guitar Center and bought the Dave Weckl brand sticks. I was determined to be,
I got those.
you know, still got them. So you said that was the passion answer. What's part B?
I have a more skeptic answer. Like in my recent years, I feel like when you're 18 and you decide to go places, you don't know shit about the world. You can
It's okay.
you can
It's
bleep
okay.
me later.
We don't have to. It's just us. It's on YouTube. You're good.
But it's come to my understanding with years that I think certain outside perspectives and cultures can be a little prominent in certain places. This is my theory of, well, it's not my theory, but it's like kind of piggybacking on the theories of colonialism of culture.
Mhm.
And so I think there's an idea that like it's not only in regards to music or whatever, but sometimes you grow up in Mexico or another developing country, whatever you want to call it, and you are kind of fed narratives of like this is the better music, this is where the greater opportunities are in, this is the way to go if you want success, you know. And when you're 18 and you don't know anything about the world, you are very much influenced by all of that stuff, you know. I mean, suddenly, like, you know, 12 years have passed or whatever, and you're like, oh man, I left my family and like my home and everything I ever knew to play music, but we have music in Mexico, you know.
Mhm.
So at some point, right about this age, maybe you start asking, well, why did I leave? You know? And that's, to me, that's like that other answer, you know? It's like, there's like, I think, a bunch of other narratives, and many are financial, some are colonial or whatever you choose to call them, that kind of influence the way we think about our communities, our art, and some things start pressuring more, you know? Yeah.
Wow. I'm imagining within the last few years, absolutely, it's been pretty challenging visiting your family, and it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. But I'm imagining you're still keeping in touch with them. How do they feel about all the great things you've done here?
Oh, they're super happy. My mom, I think my mom's proud of me. She shares in the stuff that I create and the people that I have chosen and been lucky and to run paths with them in this world and build a life with them, you know. And I think my family is happy about that. They're happy that I wanted to be a musician and that I'm a musician, that I wanted to create stuff and that I'm creating stuff, that I'm doing it with really cool people, you know, that we get to be, all of y'all are awesome, you know, and we get to be sharing and building not only cool music in our basements or in the biggest stages, doesn't matter, but we're doing it with good people and with good intentions and trying to build that. And I think that's what they would be the most proud of, you know.
That's really beautiful. And I really like the fact that you highlighted that you've kind of built another family here, you know, an extension
Yeah,
of a
absolutely.
family, which is beautiful to see. Shifting gears a little bit, you are about to release an album.
Yes, I am.
Tell me about it.
It's a record. I got a grant from the Mexican government to put together this music. It's called Desafío Candente. It's inspired by a book called The Open Veins of Latin America by a writer called Eduardo Galeano from Uruguay. And it's a really beautiful book. Galeano, I think, calls it a socio-political essay, but it's like a poetic account of the history of Latin America from the times of colonialism uh, to the times of interventionism and imperialism and capitalism and neoliberalism in the 1970s, you know? So I read the book. I tried to develop a little bit of a relationship. It's a book that I grew up seeing around my family and hearing about it, and it being quoted by many people I admired. And so I, I'm, I'm a huge fan of the work that Galeano does. Yeah, he says that he likes to write his stories and his books from the perspective of the people that he considers to have been erased from history. So I really like the perspectives that he puts into that, and I was very inspired and moved by his work. And so I wanted to make a musical story out of it. I couldn't fit the whole thing, so I chose 13 chapters, 13 sections that really moved me in this journey of Latin America, and I was inspired by them, and I chose they're happening in different parts of the continent, and I tried to use music that's inspired from different regions of the continent to try to fuel the music that we created, you know. And I don't try to play things traditionally. I just try to get inspiration from different sources, and then hopefully create some new scenarios so that we can have fun as a band and create something that makes people think artistically, socially, and whatever.
Wow. Beautiful. When does it come out?
It comes out March 24th, which is it's called the UN International Day for the Right to Truth. So that's when we're releasing it.
Well, Gustavo, where can we find this album and find you on the internet?
The album is on Wool Gathering Records. If you know Wool Gathering Records, it's a Chicago record label run by Matt Ulery. I wanted to make sure that I stayed local, and it was really nice to be able to work with someone that I admire here in town. And also, it's a label that allows the artist to decide how to distribute their music. And I wanted to make sure that my music wasn't streaming, because I don't believe streaming is a sustainable medium for trading music for, at least for me. You know, some people, it works for some people, but not for the music I'm trying to make. So I wanted to make sure that if people wanted to check it out, they could, they can download it, they can buy a CD, they can buy a vinyl. All of that happens in the Wool Gathering Bandcamp website and in Matt Euler's website. And then also, if you don't want to buy it, it's all going to be eventually for free on my YouTube page, because every song on the record has a video. And so every month this year, we started November 20th, 2020. We did another one January 1st, and we're going to release a video every month until January 1st, 2021.
Wow. What a elaborate plan.
Yeah, and every video is released on an important, just like the record, there's an important date associated with the release of the video. So it's not just the first every month.
Well, Gustavo, that sounds extremely exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for playing on our series, for being a part of this organization. Like I said, you're one of the first people I met when I came to Northwestern in the jazz program, and you were just always so loving. And it's amazing that, like I told you in a text, that we're like still in touch. So thank you, and I hope you all enjoy this last tune.
Madrugada nebulosa, entre fotos y recuerdos, anhelando recordar tu voz. Varias revoluciones han pasado de aquella noche y aquellas lágrimas, pero aquí te dejo otra vez. seco en aquel infinito que palpitaba dentro de ti. A donde fuese universo, con su amor y su ambición, con su risa y su dolor. Caso que fue devorado por el fuego y los guisados, como dictaba el orden retrusar, os que se ha elevado a los astros, como rezaba Tomás y tú confiabas. A menudo ve tu reflejo en el espejo de la vida. Espero que cualquiera se impregnado en mí aguante su oportunidad de explorar otro infinito, de construir tu universo. Espero que igual virus se impregnó de mí y aguarde su oportunidad de explorar otro infinito, de construir otro universo. Y este amor no se olvida y su luta no se desespera, no se apoya, no se despecha, no se desespera, no se rinde. Este amor no se olvida y su luta no se desespera, no se despecha, no se despecha, no se desespera, no se rinde.